Well, good evening. I'm joined by Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance, David Cohen, Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence, and Adam Kaufman from the DA's office. He is the head of the Investigations Division. Yesterday afternoon, New York City police officers arrested a 27-year-old al-Qaeda sympathizer who was plotting to bomb police patrol cars and also postal facilities, as well as targeted members of our armed forces returning from abroad. Jose Pimentel, Pimentel, of Washington Heights, which is in the northern end of Manhattan, faces terrorism-related charges that District Attorney Vance will discuss in a moment. Earlier today, I also described this case to U.S. Congressman Pete King, the chair of the House Committee on Homeland Security, who has long been a champion of federal support for the NYPD's counterterrorism efforts. The NYP Intelligence Division did outstanding work in tracking this individual and containing the threat he posed to the city. The police also constructed a duplicate of an explosive device that the suspect built and then designated in a way that he intended to use his weapon. And we wanted to show you a video about the resulting damage. I should point out that our staff briefed the governor's staff on this earlier this evening, and I've asked Commissioner Kelly to discuss this case in greater detail, but first let me make these observations. The suspect was a so-called lone wolf, motivated by his own resentment of the presence of American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as inspired by al-Qaeda propaganda. He was not part of a larger conspiracy emanating from abroad. He represents exactly the kind of threat FBI Director Robert Mueller and his experts have warned about, as American military and intelligence agencies have eroded al-Qaeda's ability to launch large-scale attacks. This case is also reminiscent of another lone wolf plot in 2004, in which two New Yorkers, angry over the treatment of prisoners in Iraq, plotted to bomb the Herald Square subway station. Like the current case, the Herald Square plot was uncovered by the NYPD Intelligence Division. And as with another case earlier this year in which a lone wolf plotted to attack a large synagogue, the NYPD teamed up with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to prosecute Pimentel under state terrorism-related statutes. Whether launched by lone wolves, al-Qaeda, or al-Qaeda affiliates, there have been at least 13 previous terror attacks since 9/11 targeting New York City. This would be the 14th. Because of such repeated threats, the NYPD remains focused on preventing another terrorist attack. We assign 1,000 police officers to counterterrorism duties every single day, and this is just another case where our precautions paid off. Now let me ask Commissioner Kelly to provide details. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over 2 years ago, the New York City Police Department became aware of a follower of the radical cleric Anwar al-Awlaki. The follower, then residing in Schenectady, New York, was talking about traveling to Yemen for training before returning to New York to become a martyr in the name of jihad. That was Jose Pimentel, an unemployed native of the Dominican Republic and convert to Islam who lived most of his life in Manhattan. Pimentel is a U.S. citizen. Before returning to Washington Heights last year, he lived in Schenectady for about 5 years, where he made even some of his like-minded friends nervous by his extremism. He talked about changing his name to Osama Hussein to celebrate his heroes Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. Pimentel talked about killing U.S. servicemen returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, particularly U.S. Army and Marine Corps personnel. He talked about bombing post offices in and around Washington Heights and police cars in New York City, as well as a police station in Bayonne, New Jersey. As in other terrorist cases, Pimentel's behavior morphed from simply talking about such acts to action, namely bomb building. Pimentel followed instructions from Anwar el-Awlaki's Inspire magazine to first acquire the bomb-making materials and then assemble them. He relied on a particularly notorious article called How to Make a Bomb in the Kitchen of Your Mom. Pimentel acquired the readily available ingredients from Home Depot and other stores, being careful not to make all of these purchases from any one location at the same time. He wanted to avoid raising red flags. He used elbow joints, customarily used to join two pipes, as the main housings for the bombs. Right here is an elbow joint. This is what one bomb looked like. In the car explosion that you saw, there were 3 of these. He made 3 bombs. This small size can do that damage, and here's the clock that would ignite it. He also planned to affix nails to them as additional shrapnel. Pimentel planned to make 3 bombs to begin with, as I said. He had already drilled holes into the elbow joints to accommodate timing devices when emergency service police officers entered an apartment in Washington Heights at 3:30 yesterday afternoon. They were accompanied by NYPD bomb squad and intelligence division detectives who took him into custody without incident. The NYPD has been keeping track of Jose Pimentel since May of 2009, when he talked about violence, and more intensely in recent weeks as he acted on it. We had always planned to take him into custody before he could detonate a fully operational bomb. We did not want him to trigger it, even accidentally, and put neighbors and others at risk. That's why we had emergency service officers standing by to take down the door if necessary. Pimentel planned to test the effectiveness of the bombs by planting them in mailboxes and detonating them. Once his bombing campaign began, Pimentel said, the public would know that there were mujahideen in the city to fight jihad here. As the mayor indicated, Pimentel was a lone wolf. As you know, there have also been plots against 9/11, since 9/11, directed against the city by Al-Qaeda Central and its affiliates, including one to take down the Brooklyn Bridge and to bomb the subway system. We keep a 360-degree perimeter as a result, looking for Al-Qaeda Central, its affiliates, or lone wolves to return here to kill more New Yorkers. We remain the nation's financial capital. We remain its communications capital, and a world stage on which terrorists can get the most bang for the buck. Thanks to the outstanding work of the officers involved and support from the district attorney, the buck stopped in Washington Heights yesterday afternoon. Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner, thank you. I'd like to now ask District Attorney Vance to comment on the case. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner Kelly, Chief Cohen, ladies and gentlemen. The safety of our citizens is the primary responsibility of any district attorney. And for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, that job must include a commitment to and an expertise in terrorist threats, both abroad and at home. Manhattan, as the Commissioner said, is the symbol of much that terrorists hate about the West, and this city, our home, will continue to be a target in the years to come. We are fortunate to have a police department that has risen to the challenge of addressing a global threat that focuses on our city. And we support Ray Kelly and the NYPD in addressing that threat. In combating this terrorist threat, as we all know, without special vigilance, the results will be deadly. Our office today filed charges against Jose Pimentel of Manhattan for conspiring to build a bomb for terrorist purposes and for possessing a weapon, a pipe bomb, that he is alleged to have intended to use to wage his campaign of violence. The defendant stated his belief in violent jihad and harbored a violent ideology. And you could see that from his website, True Islam. He posted articles on Osama bin Laden, discussed the duty of every Muslim to wage war against the West, and identified himself with terrorist organizations. He was a reader of al-Qaeda's slick online magazine, Inspire, and inspire him it did. The bomb Pimentel is charged with building came straight from the pages of Inspire magazine, and his stated desire to attack our servicemen and women as they return from Iraq and Afghanistan could have come from an al-Qaeda playbook. Homegrown extremists are one of the faces of terrorism that we are now facing, and foreign terrorist organizations attempt to recruit our own citizens to take up armed jihad against their own neighbors. The threats against us change constantly, and our challenge in law enforcement is to balance vigilance and preparedness against the preservation of liberties that define who we are as a civil society. And to do this, we will employ the tried and true techniques that have served us and our office for decades. We follow the rule of law, and we act aggressively but responsibly. In the fight against a shifting and difficult to identify local terror threat, there is an important role to play for local law enforcement and prosecutors working in coordination with our federal counterparts, which we did in this case. And we'll continue to work within the law and employ all the tools available to us to prevent a local terrorist attack and to keep our citizens safe. Thank you, Mayor.
I thank you. Before taking questions, let me just summarize our announcement for our Spanish-speaking New Yorkers. Hemos arrestado un sospecho que estaba preparando hacer explotar patrullas de policía, oficinas de correo y atacar a los soldados regresando a los Estados Unidos. Era un simpatizante de Al-Qaeda, pero trabaja solo. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions if anybody has any. Yes, Miss.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any information as to how or why he became radicalized?
Ray?
I don't think we can say any specific reason, but it's a process that we've seen in the past where a young man does a lot of reading. Perhaps he does a lot of research on the internet, and we think that an event that really set him off was the elimination of Anwar al-Awlaki. That happened on September 30th of this year, although he had decided, we believe, to build a bomb starting in August of this year. But clearly, based on statements of people who observed him, his actions became a lot more intense after September 30th.
Yes, Miss, you had a question?
Eric Farr and Eric One, can you explain what this is right here on the table? Is this a duplicate that the police put together? And can you also explain the photo right there?
This is the bomb itself. This is the device. You make three of
Don't
these.
down.
And it holds a drill hand here, and this is the ignition device. So what happens is you set a time when the hand hits this screw. There's a full circuit here, and it causes a detonation. Inside of this device here is a powder. In this case, matches to actually shave off the material from over, I think it's 700 matches. And it's also mixed with sugar. This is outlined in the magazine Inspire. And his intention was to glue nails onto this device to make it act. It had more shrapnel. Now, the power of this relatively small device can be seen in the film that we show. There are three of these in that film. That's him putting taking the material off the matches.
This is from his website, or
This is what?
where is this photo from?
This is from the apartment where he was assembling his bombs.
Yes, Miss.
The
talked about like-minded people that were mentioned. Where did we get the information about the guy?
Well, we have been involved with this individual since 2009. This came to us through our Century program, police departments in other locations, police departments in in the Albany area gave us information about this individual, and we gathered that information while he was being surveilled.
Yes, miss.
Yeah, it was mentioned that you'd worked with federal counterparts in this case. Can you explain, were the feds involved in this, how?
I can't hear.
Were the feds involved and how?
Yes, the federal government has been fully informed of this case. We had to act quickly yesterday because he was, in fact, putting this bomb together. He was drilling the holes, and it would have been not appropriate for us to let him walk out the door with that bomb. So a decision was made to act quickly. We had been talking, of course, the district attorney is fully involved in this case and has been involved working with us. So we thought it was best to act quickly yesterday and take him into custody.
Do you think the NYPD acted?
NYPD, with the district attorney's office, with the district attorney's advice.
Did they know afterwards, or were you telling them?
The feds know afterwards.
The personal what? I'm sorry.
Right, because you had mentioned that you had to make a decision quickly, so.
Yes.
Was it that the NYPD decided this and then the feds were informed afterwards?
Yes.
Yes. Would the feds do it in the feds? Yes. Sir, you had a question.
Was he about to test the bombs on mailboxes?
The acoustics
on
are so bad, so
Saturday,
speak up.
and
We can barely hear you.
Was he about to test the bombs on mailboxes on Saturday, and did he have a timeline for when he wanted to strike the police cars, the police station, etc.?
Well, the timeline of when he wanted to detonate the bomb, is that what you're saying? It's difficult to say with precision. We know what he wanted to do was to test the bomb in a mailbox. Exactly, and then he wanted to act. He was somewhat close, holding it close to the vest as to what specifically he was going to do with the bomb after it was tested. But I ran through a litany of the possible targets that he mentioned: the military personnel coming home, the police guards in Upper Manhattan, post offices in Upper Manhattan, and a police station in Bayonne, New Jersey. These are the possible targets that he mentioned.
Do you know specifically where this bomb, where he was targeting?
This particular one? No, this is a model.
The one he was about to leave with on Saturday.
Yeah.
And do you know what his first targets were going to be?
What his first targets were going to be? No, we know that he was going to test it in the mailbox. And he was looking in locations outside of New York City.
Yes, sir.
Given the length of the investigation and the nature of the charges, is there a reason why the FBI is not here and why they didn't take part in this investigation?
You know, we worked very closely with them on this case, the JTTF. There is an assessment process that is engaged in by the federal authorities with the U.S. Attorney. We just believe that we couldn't let it go any further. We had to act yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get different view. And way down there, sir, yes.
Any discussion about federal charges as far as like federal terrorism charges, or any reason why not?
Our office has been in touch with the Southern District of New York before action was taken in this case. And New York State, 10 years ago, enacted its own state terrorism laws, empowering prosecutors to take actions and file charges as has been done in this case. As the Commissioner indicated, there was communication with federal authorities. The NYPD Intelligence Division had been working with our office in connection with this case, and our office simply followed through. And given the timeline the Commissioner outlined, collective belief was that it was appropriate to proceed under state charges. Both jurisdictions have laws. The charge in the complaint in this case is possession of an explosive device with an intent to use it for terrorist purposes, which raises it to an offense as charged with a substantial prison sentence of 15 to life with a maximum of 25 to life. And there are going to be cases where local authorities, local prosecutors work with the City of New York Police Department on these investigations in concert with, to supplement and to aid in the broader fight against terrorism that affects our city.
Sir, right, yes, sir.
Commissioner Kelly, this man had no connections to Al-Qaeda and no other connections to anyone locally. So is he a textbook example of self-radicalization, online radicalization?
We can't really hear up here. That's it. He said, is this a textbook case of a lone wolf not having any contacts with anybody else?
Yes, I think that's a correct statement. We haven't seen any connection to any sort of international organization. We know that he did attempt to contact Alaki. He received no answer, but he clearly was energized. And after the death of Alaki, we know for the last 2 years that he's been reading a lot of jihadist information. He's talked a lot of inflammatory rhetoric, but as I said, it appears at this juncture that the death of Anwar Alaki is what motivated him and made him increase his tempo significantly. He had decided to build a bomb August of this year, but clearly he jacked up his speed, so to speak, after the elimination of Anwar Alaki.
And as I said, there's no evidence that he worked with anybody else. He appears to be a total lone wolf. Sir, you had a question? Yes.
Talking about the assessment of this case, is this something that the FBI declined to take, or did the Southern District decline to prosecute this case? That's still a possibility.
The FBI is fully informed of this case. We have a very close working relationship with the JTTF. This was, because of the immediacy of the situation, I think that was a significant factor in making the arrest yesterday and using state laws to do it.
Want to get some people? Yes, Miss. Right there.
You had mentioned intent to go to Yemen. Did he ever make it to Yemen? And then also, what brought him from Schenectady down to New York City?
Did he ever go to Yemen, and what brought him from Schenectady down to here?
No, he never went to Yemen. He did talk about going to Yemen to train for jihad. It was a domestic situation that caused him to come to New York. He had a divorce from his wife. She relocated, and he relocated with her, even though that they had separated.
Last question, Miss.
Do you have any children, and can you tell us more about this man?
No, I know that he was married and divorced, or at least clearly separated, and that was the reason that he came from Schenectady to New York. He spent most of his life in Manhattan, went to Schenectady, was there for 5 years, came back to New York.
All right. I think we're going around. We really don't know any more than what we've said, or we're certainly not going to say more than what we've said. This is just another example of New York City, because we are an iconic city, because we are a city that welcomes people from around the world, because we let people come here and say what they want to say, and as you've seen, protest when they want to protest. This is a city that people that want to take away our freedoms gravitate to and focus on. And there's another example of why the city invests the money to have 1,000 police officers every single day working on intelligence and counterterrorism, and why we work so closely with the district attorney so that we can keep this city safe. It is a battle that perhaps we'll never win, but we have to make sure that we don't lose. and we'll continue to do exactly what we have been doing of keeping our eyes and ears open, using the best equipment and the best trained people we can possibly put together. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of the participants who will remain nameless, obviously, but there's an awful lot of people out there working for the district attorney and for the commissioner who have brought this person to the state where he's been arrested and protected us from what could have actually been something that would have killed a lot of people. Thank you very much.